Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. If you've been feeling, completely overwhelmed by the absolute avalanche of AI updates lately, trust me, you are not alone. But June 2026 wasn't just another busy month, it was a massive tipping point. We've officially moved from passive AI experimentation into the era of active, governed, agentic workflows. So, we're going to break down exactly what shipped, skip the hype entirely, and show you what this actually means for developers and organizations building the future.
All right, so here's our roadmap for making sense of this chaotic month. We'll cover the arrival of new frontier models, the big shift to active agents, closing the adoption gap, the sudden plummet in AI training costs, and finally, the new rules of governance. Let's dive right in.
Okay, Section 1. New frontier models arrive. And wow, the foundational model layer just saw 3 massive drops in very close succession.
Anthropic, OpenAI, and Google literally all dropped major updates. Anthropic rolled out Claude Opus 4.8, bringing dynamic parallel subagents to the table for just $5 per million input tokens. It's laser-focused on multi-step developer pipelines. Then, OpenAI hits back with GPT-5.5 Instant, boasting enhanced reliability and, get this, a 52.5% reduction in hallucinations. Huge if true, right? Meanwhile, Google's Gemini 3.5 Flash is all about ultra-low latency, coming in at a crazy cheap 10 cents per million tokens. The model wars are definitely heating up, but the capabilities themselves are really branching out.
To put this tech into perspective, let's look at Opus 4.8 in the wild. Developer Jared Sumner used its dynamic workflows for an absolute beast of a project. He migrated 750,000 lines of the Bun runtime codebase from Zig to Rust. And he pulled the whole shebang off in just 11 days with a 99.8% test pass rate. I mean, that's not just auto-completing code anymore, that's literally orchestrating an entire multi-agent migration team.
Now, these models don't just run on magic. We're seeing some major hardware strides powering them. The Minimax M3 architecture slashes per-token compute to 1/20th using sparse attention. NVIDIA introduced Cosmos 3, the first fully open Omni model for physical AI, and Intel just launched the Xeon 6 Plus, delivering an amazing 9-to-1 server consolidation ratio. Like Intel points out, as AI becomes more agentic, the bottlenecks shift to orchestration and data movement, meaning the CPU is actually reclaiming its role as the control plane.
Moving on to Section 2, the shift to active agents. Because having raw processing power is one thing, but what happens when you actually put these models to work?
We're seeing a massive divide in how agents are deployed right now. On one end, you have everyday productivity tools like ZoomMate at $20 a user per month, hooking up live meeting decisions straight into workflows like Salesforce and Jira. Cool, right? But contrast that with enterprise infrastructure agents like Itential FlowAI. This is heavy duty. We're talking governed AI agents on live production networks with super strict auditability just to make sure no irreversible network changes happen by accident. Productivity versus mission-critical infrastructure.
Melody Brew, VP at More Insights and Strategy, really hit the nail on the head here. She notes, the market is moving away from isolated AI helpers and toward tools that can better connect decisions, data, and workflows across an organization, and she's absolutely right. We are officially past the era of the isolated chat box. Today, it's all about connected, autonomous action.
Which brings us to Section 3, closing the adoption gap. Because while these tools absolutely exist today, getting them into production, totally different story.
Now, what's really interesting about this data from McKinsey is this massive 39-point adoption gap. You've got 62% of organizations actively experimenting with AI agents, but only 23% have successfully scaled them into production. Why? Well, predictable blockers, honestly. Governance, auditability, legacy system integration, it's creating some serious friction for engineering teams.
So how are we bridging that gap? Well, look at the financial sector. They are moving aggressively. OpenAI just launched DeployCo with a whopping $4 billion in backing. Their strategy? Literally embedding forward-deployed engineers into client organizations to connect models to internal data. They even acquired a 150-person engineering firm just to staff it. Meanwhile, BNP Paribas extended their Mistral AI contract for 3 years to co-develop corporate banking tools, and startups like Primitive are launching AI agent operating systems specifically for finance, complete with embedded compliance controls. Integration is a huge services play now.
And that leads us to a fundamental shift in the economics of all this. Section 4, plummeting AI training costs. Okay, get ready for this. $1.25.
That is not a cloud storage fee, folks. That's the staggering hourly cost of training the Orion 100B parameter model. I mean, this completely shatters the narrative that you absolutely must have massive hyperscaler budgets just to build cutting-edge AI.
Let's break that down. The Orion 100B project achieved that $125 an hour cost by distributing 16 pipeline parallel stages over the open internet using standard commodity hardware. And get this, they still hit 65% of traditional data center speeds. Compare that to a traditional data center node requiring an expensive, localized 8x 200 cluster setup, which is going to run you about $50 an hour. If this trajectory holds, custom model training is going to be totally democratized for developers entirely outside of big tech.
But hey, with cheap, autonomous power comes some pretty serious responsibility. Section 5, the new rules of governance.
Autonomous agents need entirely new paradigms for security and trust. This isn't theoretical anymore. Prompt injections are officially a CVE category now, and vulnerabilities linked to AI-generated code are up nearly sixfold since last year. Plus, regulatory deadlines are closing in fast. If you deploy in the US but have users in Europe, the EU AI Act mandates synthetic media transparency, meaning machine-readable watermarks and labels, by December 2nd, 2026. The clock is absolutely ticking.
Roei Eliyahu, the CEO of Salt Security, put it pretty bluntly. He said, AI is writing code faster than organizations can govern it. For the first time, security policy travels with the code itself. Actually, think about that for a second. If you're deploying agents that mix data retrieval with external tool integrations, you can't just cross your fingers and hope for the best. You need to be setting up strict argument allow lists and zero-trust sandboxes like yesterday.
So what does this all mean for you? Here's your developer action plan to stay ahead of these June 2026 shifts. First, evaluate Claude Opus 4.8's dynamic parallel subagent architecture. If you're orchestrating complex workflows, this is probably your new baseline. Second, track the deploy co-model. It's a massive signal that integration and deployment are the real bottlenecks today. Third, adopt FlowAI-style governance patterns. Audit trails are non-negotiable for anything touching critical infrastructure. And fourth, definitely keep an eye on those Orion 100B training cost trajectories to see if fine-tuning custom models is finally economically viable for your team.
I want to leave you with this leaked internal memo from earlier this year. It reads, "The model layer is approaching commodity faster than anyone's pricing model assumed. The differentiation has moved up the stack." Seriously, think about that. If raw intelligence is just becoming a cheap utility, where is the real value? It's in the orchestration. It's in the workflows. It's in how well you can securely connect these agents to your specific business problems. So, are you just building for the model layer, or are you building the governed workflows that are actually going to define the future?